Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Gamer Dad channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today we have a topic on Tom Clancy games right now and the status of these games. Because right now we've seen that there are developments that are actually rapidly unfolding even within the month of November regarding some of the Tom Clancy IPs. I guess it's pertinent to ask what the studio leaders, what the studio producers, and those under Ubisoft that have a Tom Clancy title underneath their belt, or at least one in progress of some sort, what they're doing right now with their IPs. And I think we can come together and look at the different levels of evidence that we have, and we can kind of put together some sort of the tempo of which these Tom Clancy games right now are in. So first of all, let's look at the Division. Now, the Division is no longer being actively supported. There are still activities that go on in the game that keep the game cycle running. You can still play the game and enjoy refresh of old content that's been put in there that resets itself kind of automatically. And this is something available for people to play. But more than likely, most people are looking forward to the Division 2's new game mode that has been promised in the past. Now, this game mode was supposedly delayed by a lot of the different things that happen in terms of medical situations. And one really important thing is the company and the studio that's working on this new content is Ubisoft Bucharest. Now, remember, Ghost Recon Breakpoint enjoyed the Ubisoft Bucharest treatment in terms of how Breakpoint got a whole rehaul and this new Motherland content. Now, Ubisoft Bucharest has been in the Ghost Recon place in terms of development. I think they can take their place among the top studios that have been developing in this franchise. In Ghost Recon Future Soldier, they are one of the studios that's actually in the beginning. So them, Ubisoft Paris, and Red Storm. So it's not necessarily a new thing that the studio is quite capable of doing a lot of these different DLCs, expansions, game modes for these bigger studios like Ubisoft Paris and Massive, who are the creators of Ghost Recon Breakpoint and The Division respectively, to be able to kind of just leverage their expertise. But nonetheless, we have to still look at the state and the status of the Tom Clancy games. 2019 was interesting. 2020 was also interesting, but it appeared that the games that really did well for 2019, somehow Tom Clancy's The Division made its way into those games. The Division 2 was one of the top 10 games of 2019. Fortunately for us, Anthem bombed. If Anthem was anything half as good as The Division, I think because of its aesthetics and gameplay mechanics, it would have really taken the spot for RPG looter shooter. But it didn't necessarily get to that point, so it fell flat, and The Division was able to just kind of fight its way in there and was one of the better games that was released in 2019. But if you were to kind of start to take a closer look at everything, there is one more Tom Clancy game that is somewhat in the works that there's not a lot of conversation about. Now, this game is simply one game that I would think that more people will be paying attention to, but perhaps it's probably the reception of the game that's probably stunting the game, and that is Rainbow Six Extraction. So Rainbow Six Extraction was first revealed a few months ago, and initially when I started to look at a lot of what the Rainbow Six community, especially the Rainbow Six Siege community, was in a sense reporting or actually talking about regarding Extraction, it seemed like people were talking about Extraction being some sort of expansion of a game mode that had already appeared in Rainbow Six Siege. So the PvE aspect of Rainbow Six Siege and kind of like the enemy types and whatever the name of the sequences are for your operators to be able to go in, I think they call them some kind of a mission where they invade the lairs of these so-called alien life forms or whatever they are. I think something like that had happened in Rainbow Six Siege. This is what the Rainbow Six Siege community was saying anyways. And so a lot of people had said, well, it doesn't seem like we're going to want to pay $60 for something that we've seen as a game mode in Siege. And so I think this was something that Ubisoft took into account. At first, I didn't think they were going to necessarily care because I thought they were just basically creating Rainbow Six Extraction for PvE players, unlike Rainbow Six Siege, which is basically a PvP game. But it appeared that the audience that they're looking for is both the PvE players and perhaps potentially some of the PvP players from Rainbow Six Siege, because just recently the price point for Rainbow Six Extraction actually went down. So people had already placed their pre-orders at the initial price point, somewhere close to about $60 or so. But I saw an announcement when I logged into my Uplay for, basically the game saying that the price had reduced and refunds, partial refunds of the difference was going to be given back to those who had pre-ordered. So the game is not only going to basically be getting, in my opinion, what I think is a fair price, but now we have a release date in January of 2020. So I guess you can say the Tom Clancy games right now, in my opinion, are not necessarily in their most hottest place. I think when Division 1 and Ghost Recon Wildlands were out there and Rainbow Six Siege was probably the prime of what the Tom Clancy games were in at that particular period. Yes, the Division 1 suffered its own issues, but at that time we had received somewhere around 2017 mark. We got the survival DLC, we got Underground, and all of those different expansions that really did make the game come alive in a different way. And Ghost Recon Wildlands had basically just released, and the developers and the community were still kind of enjoying that high that the game had. I know there was a DLC, I think, that was really poorly received. I don't know if it was Narco Road or the other, but this had not yet happened within the entire community and the franchises that these different studios are bringing to people. And so here are a few things that I think could happen. The Tom Clancy name is a very solid name. Tom Clancy himself, God rest his soul, was able to write a lot of really solid stories that really did resonate with a lot of people who enjoyed the action genre, militaristic type, government, clandestine, all of that crazy stuff, that really did interest a lot of people. I think what Ubisoft is doing with the Tom Clancy games right now is, in a sense, experimental, but at the same time quite detrimental. If you look at Ghost Recon Frontline being, basically presented to people, and Tom Clancy's X-Defiant using assets or enemy types from the Ghost Recon game, the Division game, and so on and so forth, I don't think that Ubisoft understands how to necessarily appeal to the audience for this particular type of game. In fact, I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to mimic successes of other franchises that are basically their own original. So Call of Duty, Warzone, Battlefield, these are franchises that have already enjoyed what it is that they set out to do. If Ubisoft wants to jump into that particular niche, there is no need to try to use the Tom Clancy name to try to do it. Instead, they could create an entire new system, an entire new franchise by just giving it a name that is reminiscent of exactly what it is: a warlike multiplayer PvP shooter, or whatever it is, battle royale, or a big huge arena with hundreds of players, and not use the Tom Clancy name. And I think that will be really respectable if they can provide exactly the fun, the play, and all the other things that Battlefield and Call of Duty is doing, and they can basically do it well and allow players to just organically move into it. You see, everyone is trying to copy everyone else, and it's a little pathetic for these big companies that have access to some of the best talents in the world to be trying to rip off one another. I get it. A good idea is worth copying many times, but gamers are an audience in themselves. You see, most producers or most directors of movies will hardly try their hands on other genres until they've basically established themselves. So in this new generation, in terms of the Xbox One and the Xbox Series X, which I will just say the past and the new generation of consoles, PS4, PS5, I don't think the Tom Clancy name has basically established itself enough for it to be able to try to hop over to this new niche of battle royale and stuff. They really need to make the games, enough of the games at least, that exhibit or highlight what the Tom Clancy name is about first, and make a plethora of those games to have the audience pretty much enjoy them before they start to move around and try to say, oh, we're going to do a battle royale type game or a PvP game like X-Defiant or Frontline. I think this is exactly what they're missing that has made the fans and the community pretty much reject these premises, while they've heavily and just overwhelmingly embraced, say, the Motherland DLC for Ghost Recon Breakpoint. I think we're seeing the contrast there, and I think Ubisoft has the capacity to just do this, but who knows? I hope that they do it, but at the same time, they're thinking that they're going to be chasing the money, but little do they know that not a lot of people want to go in and play a Tom Clancy game that feels like Call of Duty or a Tom Clancy game that feels like Battlefield. Just call it something else. Call it, give it a name, and I think that's probably going to be much more respectable within the gaming community and among the eyes of gamers. But these are my thoughts regarding the Tom Clancy universe currently. I would love to hear yours in the comment section. For those of you playing Ghost Recon Breakpoint, I know you guys are enjoying the DLC right now. For those who are waiting for the Division content sometime in February, I know it's a little painful. I'm waiting myself, and I'm hoping that the developers are able to deliver. And in terms of Siege and Extraction, I would have to find out more as to if Extraction is going to appeal to me. But again, talk to me in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts. Hopefully we'll talk in another video. Thank you guys so much. Peace out.